Part 4.
Something different. Now I know more. I was wrong. And you are a rooster. I know that means that males cannot be female. It also means that a male can't be a girl, because he always knew he was male, but we had this, like kids are going to understand the difference between gender and sex. But anyways, you cannot be female. That means you cannot be a girl. And I know it feels like you can't live without it, because once it was in, it was locked real tight. Okay, and this is part of that psychology that we don't get to when the ideology is keeping us on the surface. We don't get to that deeper piece. I know that you feel like you can't live without it, but you can, and you're actually going to be much happier, because I did truly, at that point, I saw the ways that it was impacting him psychologically that were not in his best interest. And so, he was mad. I knew he would be mad. And he said to me, "Mama, this is your fault. You changed my name." So imagine had we not realized our mistake, and you go 10, 20 years into the future. Imagine that, "Mama, this was your fault then." So I said, "Yeah, you're right. You're right." And this is another part of the story that just, I want to share. I knew he was going to be mad. I knew what I was trying to get to the sad. I was trying to get to the sad, because that was going to tell me that he had understood what Dr. Gordon Neufeld, who I just want to plug here, his book, Hold On to Your Kids, this concept of futility, which is an essential part of us adapting to life, maturing in life. It's when we come against something we cannot change, and our heart is soft enough to feel that vulnerability and cry about it. And so I knew my son had to some point get to those tears.
See, this is what I'm talking about. She has not learned her lesson. She is treating this child like it's a grown adult. It is a 4-year-old. He's not going to philosophize about futility in certain aspects of life and how some things are. You just tell the child, "Hey, I made a mistake. You're a boy." That's the end of the conversation. You don't have to explain anything. He's a 4-year-old. But she wants him to, and this is what, she's going to force this child to cry about it, because if he knows, you'll hear the story.
Where he was accepting something that he couldn't change. And but the mad came first, and I decided we're going to go on a bike ride. I'm going to let him lead.
He's going to lead again.
Dynamics were at play. And as we're walking out the door, getting on the bikes, he turns around to me, and he had this with a lot of these highly sensitive kids and autistic, spectrum kids. It's like there's this they're less mature in some way. So he lives in this imaginary world. He, had this farm he was going to create in his future. Called Wildwood Farm, and he turns to me and he just gives me these dagger eyes, and he says, "Mama, you are not invited to Wildwood Farm." And it just hit me. Again, this incredible validation for this decision that we were making to lead him off that highway. This is a child. This is a child. He is uninviting me from an imaginary farm. He has no ability to understand the consequences of changing his sex.
And what's funny is, this woman has been told millions of stories by now by this 4 or 6-year-old, right? About these imaginary tales, about this, that they're idiots, you know what I mean? Because obviously if you just learned how to walk and talk, you're an idiot, right? You can't be that smart, right? But she didn't see any of that until now. And she still only sees it when it comes to the gender. She doesn't see it in other aspects.
So in the days after that, he did get to those tears. He did get to those tears. And what I write about in the piece and what I want to share with you is that I imagined that he would be mad at me for a very long time. And I was expecting it was going to be hard. I was not expecting that the very next day, what I would experience in my son was a great sense of relief. a great sense of rest. And literally, when we talk about being in the lead and how this put him into the lead, that's deeply unsettling for a child. They might express it through being bossy or being, in all these ways we might interpret as willfulness or confidence or tightly holding on to something, but ultimately they need to rest knowing that we've got them, that we're taking care of them. And so when I took that back, he was able to set this adult burden down, and he literally spent the next 24 hours leaning into me. And so even his whole, you could just feel palpably that he was laying the burden down.
See, again, she's probably what happened was this kid finally, she's putting down a law that, you're a boy, you're not a girl, let's live in reality. And then she has this notion that it's all, she acts like he's an adult. He's not an adult, he's a child, okay? She thinks that he's going to go through these stages of grief, right? He's going to philosophize life and how sometimes things are futile in life and that, you can't get your way. And this is he has to philosophize about it and go through these stages of grief. And then he's going to cry. And then she'll know. Only then will she know that he understood. Yeah. What do you think just like the gender thing, she's telling him the whole time about how he should have to cry to understand this. So obviously, after a day, he cries. It makes her happy because he didn't philosophize crap. He's just he looked at his mother and he knew that if he didn't cry about it, that she wasn't going to be happy. Again, she's just stop treating this child like an adult. Okay, he didn't go philosophize anything. He's 4 years old. Okay, this woman said, he philosophized about the futility of life and how no bullshit. He philosophized shit. This guy just uninvited you to an imaginary place. You idiot. He didn't philosophize nothing, okay? All he knows is that you will not be happy unless he cries. And so he cries for you, okay? And then he could see, she's going to be happy now. You're a piece of garbage, mother. I'll tell you what right now.
The thing that I've noticed, Rose, with, when people talk about this, and obviously, I was a teacher, and I was very lucky in my teaching career. I taught everything from the age of 4, kindergarten, right the way through to 18. And you listen to people's stories, and if you had told our grandparents' generation or our mother's generation what we were doing, they would be saying, but that's against everything that we know to be true. That is against every type of instinct a mother has. How have we reached this point where we're so willing to subvert our instincts for an ideology?
The answer is the m0m effect, the Kruger-Dunning effect, and the 4 lights effect, which actually has a scientific name, but I don't know what it is, so I call it the 4 lights effects. There are 3 very good tools that you can use to brainwash the society.
It's such a good question. It's such a good question. I wish I had the answer. But I do think that it's a subversion of instincts, but it's also an inversion of reality. Like I keep on coming back to that because parents who are in this are absolutely believing they're doing the right thing for their child. So all of those instincts to protect at all costs are there, but it's based on something that is not real. And I think that is the power. That's the power of the belief system. No, I mean, and so I don't know how to answer that question because I think that is the power of having this locked-in belief system.
Yeah, it's the power of ideology. It's easy to think, a bunch of stupid, evil people over there are doing the same. Whereas actually, you're clearly very intelligent. You're clearly extremely well-intentioned for your kids. But this is why Francis and I have spent so much time talking about this issue, because ideology is incredibly powerful. And if you find people who are looking for meaning and purpose and want to feel good about themselves and want to quote-unquote change the world, then you give them a system of beliefs that preys on those desires and offers them these oversimplified solutions. You can get a lot of harm done without anybody ever wanting to do anything bad.
But I'm going to go back again, putting the child in the lead. So this core of this ideology. So I want to explain how that then plays out for parents. Okay.
Like she has to explain that. Well, if you put a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old in charge of stuff, things go to crap. Really? You need to talk about it? You need to tell people that common sense thing that a 3-year-old should know? Even a 3-year-old knows. Don't. If you can put an adult in charge or a 3-year-old, you're going to put an adult in charge. Like, come on. They just learned how to walk and talk. They literally just walked out of your womb, lady. What are you talking about? You just learned this?
When you put your child in the lead, you say I know you're born a male, but you say you're a girl, then you're a girl. Or asking a lot of parents in this belief system, young parents, progressive, like they're asking their kids what their gender is, right? So they're kind of subverting that natural hierarchical relationship and putting kids here, right? Leading this.
If your kid, if a 4-year-old obviously doesn't know what gender is, so if you give them a bunch of Pokemon cards or gender cards, they're just going to pick whatever. Just whatever one sounds cool or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, come on.
So you have that going on, but then and that's really impacts the entire relationship and as well as the kid's emotional stability. Then you have an ideology that says if your child then expresses that they're the opposite sex, they are transgender, and that's a sacred category. I'm going to use those words. That is a sacred category. And it's one, when you plug it into the formula, oppressor, oppressed, oppressed, privileged. If you're a cisgender or you don't identify as trans, you can't know your child. I mean, that's what this belief system does to parents.
See, this is what I'm talking about. And a lot of these kids are autistic or depressed, so they're already disconnected from their family, their parents. Now you come in and you tell the parents and the child, there's no way that you two can ever understand each other because you are almost like different species because your parents only know male and female. They have this gender thing is alien to them, even though gender just means personality traits. Yeah, so you can't ever, now you have a child who thinks my parents can never ever understand me because they didn't even hear about my gender until recently, you know what I mean? And the parents are thinking, I can never understand this child because I've never even heard of genders before, and blah, blah, blah. So that's how they destroyed the family unit.
You no longer know this core part of your child because you are privileged. You're not in that sacred category. So you have the severing of you have this inverting of the relationship with putting the child in the lead. And then you have the severing of that intuitive knowledge, that instinct, because you now can't know this part of your child.
And they tell the kid and the parent, you're going to die. You're going to kill yourself if you don't do this and do a full transformation, get the sex change, get these hormones.
Okay, and they're sacred. Okay? Who can you go to then to be the arbiter of your relationship? Well, you have to trust experts. You have to trust experts, and you have to ask other trans adults if you are not trans.
And sorry, Rose, carry on.
Yeah, no. So I wanted to share that piece. And then if you're in that belief system, you then are saying, if I am uncomfortable, I have to stuff it down. They actually have like some of that doctor in the Matt Walsh film. When I was in the midst of my anguish and trying to reach out, like, where can I find more information? I do Google searches, and the only things I would find were the people who don't want to transition their kids are bad conservatives.
See, gets in this bubble, right? The AI picks things